Title 4, Taxation, Title 4, Value Added Tax. Chapter 1, Imposition of Tax. Section 105, Persons Liable. Any person who, in the source of trade or business, sells, barters, exchanges, leases goods or properties, renders services, and any person who imports goods shall be subject to the value added tax imposed in Section 106 to 108 of this code. The value added tax is an indirect tax. The value added tax is an indirect tax, and the amount of tax may be shifted or passed on to the buyer, transferee, or lessee of the goods, properties, or services. This rule shall likewise apply to existing contracts of sale or lease of goods, properties, or services at the time of the effectivity of Republic Act Number 7716. The praise in the course of trade or business means the regular conduct or pursuit of a commercial or an economic activity, including transactions incidental thereto by any person, regardless of whether or not the person engaged therein is a non-stock, non-profit, private organization, or government entity. The rule of regularity, to the contrary notwithstanding, services as defined in this code, rendered in the Philippines by non-resident foreign persons, shall be considered as being rendered in the course of trade or business. Section 106, Value Added Tax on Sale of Goods or Properties. A. Rate and base of tax. There shall be levied, assessed, and collected on every sale, barter, or exchange of goods or properties a value-added tax equivalent to 12% of the gross selling price or gross value in money of the goods or properties sold, bartered, or exchanged. Such tax to be paid by the seller or transferor. 1. The term goods or properties shall mean all tangible and intangible objects which are capable of pecuniary estimation and shall include A. Real properties held primarily for sale to customers or held for lease in the ordinary course of trade or business. B. The right or the privilege to use patent, copyright, design or model, plan secret formula or process, goodwill, trademark, trade brand, or other like property or right. C. The right or the privilege to use in the Philippines of any industrial, commercial, or scientific equipment. D. The right or the privilege to use motion picture films, tapes, and discs. And E. Radio, television, satellite transmission, and cable television time. The term gross selling price means the total amount of money or its equivalent which the purchaser pays or is obligated to pay to the seller in consideration of the sale, barter, or exchange of the goods or properties, excluding the value-added tax. The excise tax, if any, on the goods or properties shall form part of the gross selling price. 2. The following sales by VAT registered persons shall be subject to 0% rate. Again, the following sales of VAT registered persons shall be subject to 0% rate. A. Export sales. The term export sales means 1. The sale and actual shipment of goods from the Philippines to a foreign country, irrespective of any shipping arrangement that may be agreed upon which may influence or determine the transfer of ownership of the goods so exported, and paid for in acceptable foreign currency or its equivalent in goods or services and accounted for in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. 2. Sale and delivery of goods to 1. Registered enterprises within a separate customs territory as provided under special laws. And 2. Registered enterprises within tourism enterprise zones as declared by the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprises Zone Authority or CHEZA, subject to the provisions under the Republic Act Number 9593 or the Tourism Act of 2009. Okay. Number 3, sale of raw materials or packaging materials to a non-resident buyer for delivery to a resident local export-oriented enterprise to be used in manufacturing, processing, packing, or repacking in the Philippines of the said buyer's goods and paid for in acceptable foreign currency and accounted for in accordance with the rules and regulations of the BSP. 4. Sale of raw materials or packaging materials to export-oriented enterprise whose export sales exceed 70% of total annual production. 5. Those considered export sales under Executive Order Number 226, otherwise known as the Omnibus Investment Code of 1987, and other special laws. And 6. The sale of goods, supplies, equipment, and fuel to persons engaged in international shipping or international air transport operations, provided that the goods, supplies, equipment, and fuel shall be used for international shipping or air transport operation, provided that subparagraph 3, 4, and 5 hereof shall be subject to the 12% value-added tax and no longer be considered export sales subject to 0% VAT rate upon satisfaction of the following conditions. 1. The successful establishment and implementation of an enhanced VAT refund system that grants refund of creditable input tax within 90 days from the filing of the VAT refund application with the Bureau, provided that to determine the effectivity of item number 1, all applications filed from January 1, 2018 shall be processed and must be decided within 90 days from the filing of the VAT refund application. And 2, all pending VAT refund claims as of December 31, 2017 shall be fully paid in cash by December 31, 2019. Provided that the Department of Finance shall establish a VAT refund center in the BIR and in the Bureau of Customs that will handle the processing and granting of cash refunds of creditable input tax. The amount equivalent of 5% of the total VAT collection of the BIR and the BOC from the immediately preceding year shall be automatically appropriated annually and shall be treated as a special account in the general fund or as trust receipts for the purpose of funding claims for VAT refund, provided that any unused fund at the end of the year shall revert to the general fund. Provided further that the BIR and the BOC shall require to submit to the Congressional Oversight Committee on the Comprehensive Tax Reform Program a quarterly report of all pending claims for refund and any unused fund. B. Sales to persons or entities whose exemption under special laws or entities whose sales to persons or okay. B. Sales to persons or entities whose exemption under special laws or international agreements to which the Philippines is signatory effectively subject such sales to zero rate. B. Transaction deemed sale. The following transaction shall be deemed sale. 1. Transfer, use, or consumption not in the course of business of goods or properties originally intended for sale or for use in the course of business. 2. Distribution or transfer to A. Shareholders or investors as the share in the profits of the VAT-registered persons, or B. Creditors in payment of debt. 3. Consignment of goods is consignment of goods if actual sale is not made within 60 days following the date such goods were consigned. And 4. Retirement from or cessation of business with respect to inventories of taxable goods existing as the such retirement or cessation. C. Changes in or cessation of status of VAT registered person. The tax imposed in subsection A of this section shall also apply to goods disposed of or existing as of a certain date if under circumstances to be prescribed in rules and regulations to be promulgated by the Secretary of Finance upon recommendation of the Commissioner. The status of a person as a VAT-registered person changes or is terminated. D. Sales, returns, allowances, and sales discount. The VAT of goods, the value of goods or property sold and subsequently returned or for which allowances were granted by a VAT-registered person may be deducted from the gross sales or receipts for the quarter in which a refund is made or a credit memorandum or refund is issued. Sales discount granted and indicated in the invoice at the time of sale and the grant of which does not depend upon the happening or a future event may be excluded from the gross sales within the same quarter it was given. E. Authority of the Commissioner to determine the appropriate tax base. The Commissioner shall, by rules and regulations prescribed by the Secretary of Finance, determine the appropriate tax base in cases where a transaction is deemed a sale, barter, or exchange of goods or properties under subsection B hereof, or where the gross selling price is unreasonably lower than the actual market value.